her and an artist advisor. She's an amazing human being, and I can vouch for that because she's very nice. But I feel really lucky because she has been touring around California speaking, and from some big organizations, and we actually get her out here in Lancaster, so we're amongst some of the elite. And so anyway, I'd like to introduce, she's been doing this over 28 years, but I'd like to introduce Katharine T.Carter from Katharine T.Carter Associates.
Thank you so much. Well, I'm really honored to be here, and ditto Andy, I feel the same way about her. We've known each other for quite a while, and when you were the curator at the Riverside, we did, Peter, Frank, and I did, a workshop, and anyway, thank you for having me. Well, what I wanted to do is tonight, I wanted to talk to you about more effective ways of promoting yourself that are more efficient, that help you cover more ground much more quickly. And I'd like you to consider some of the things that I am proposing to you in terms of how to get more exhibitions, stimulate sales, as well as developing relationships with the media. So that's what we're going to talk about tonight. And many of those things are in a book that the company did. I did the first third of it, and my associates in New York and also Peter Frank gave a chapter, all based on things that artists need to be aware of in order to get the recognition that they deserve for the work that they make. The book came out about in late 2010, and we've got reviews in many major art magazines like Art in America, so it's been very exciting because when you get to be an old warhorse like I am, it can't go on forever, and you want to make sure that all of the sort of tricks of the trade, the things that you've learned along the way that have helped you really get tangible results for your clients, that you're sort of able to pass that information on. So I think one of the most sort of significant or overriding themes in this book really has to do with progression, one thing leading to the next thing. And the way we sort of break this down is in terms of the institutions that we're approaching with regard to getting our clients. One-person museum shows, one-person exhibitions in Better College and University art galleries, art centers, that kind of thing. I mean, that's really my forte and my specialty, but all of that is really done to prepare an artist to get into a better gallery. And one of the things that dealers really look for in an artist is someone who has a track record, someone who has gotten reviews, someone who has a collecting base, and somebody whose work has been shown in museums or is included in museum collections. And I think that that's really a really overriding question that most artists that I meet really have. How do I get into a better gallery? How do I pull away from the pack? How do I get recognized, or at least get into a dialogue with a critic or with a gallerist, or even with a museum curator? So there are a couple of things that I'm going to recommend as we begin this sort of progression. And we're going to start first with the component that has to do with identifying facilities that may be appropriate in terms of approaching for an exhibition opportunity. Now, there are two publications that I believe every artist ought to own, and if they if they can't afford it, then they should certainly approach their librarian about getting these books. Or if you're a part of the faculty, at a university or a college, or even a high school, I really think that the institution should be responsible for having these books on hand for artists. And the books are the Official Museum Directory, which is put out by the American Association of Museums, and it is the American Art Directory that's put out by R.R. Bowker and Company. And in the back of the book, I have extensive resources for all aspects of both commercial sales as well as, exhibiting in nonprofit institutions. But it's important to know that what happens when you do really quality research, when you do preparation with regard to who it is you're going to contact about your work. That sort of is what predicates the percentage of success when you approach people regarding showing your work. So what that is basically saying is the better your research, the more astute your reason for selecting to approach a certain institution, the greater the likelihood is that there may be some sort of response. Now, I'm not also, and when we think about this word progression, I'm not thinking about, you know, maybe getting an immediate response. I'm thinking of starting to develop a relationship. And that's really how I have built my company, how I've gotten, you know, probably now well over 900 one-person exhibitions for my clients, because I develop relationships and I don't expect things to happen instantaneously. So there's this sort of process where artists need to be aware of how important it is to really introduce yourselves to the curators at institutions across the state of California. So, I mean, that's like, okay, you can manage that. Okay, so let's sort of, okay, progression, coming back to progression. So, first, as a professional artist, it's your responsibility to bring your work to the attention of museum curators and directors. The directors of art centers, the directors of better college and university art galleries. I mean, the way the world is today, we all know that people don't come and seek you out. It has to really be initiated through your commitment and your desire to garner the greatest exposure you possibly can for your work. So, when you look at these books, and I'm going to kind of run through the levels, and again, this comes back to our theme, progression. In my company, what we do is when an artist sends me a resume and they send me their exhibition record, what I do is I assess that exhibition record, and I see and I look at where they've been, what the next possible step might be in further developing their career. So, you know, I look and I see, have they actually, you know, been involved in a lot of juried and competitive exhibitions, and do they seem to really sort of be stuck in that pattern? In other words, it's like there's, I mean, there's always another juried and competitive show. You can run around, you know, like a chicken with your head cut off, trying to get in all of these various exhibitions. And then there's a fee, and then you have to deliver the work. Now, there's nothing wrong with it up to a point. Say maybe the first 3 to 5 years, if you're sort of like beginning to, you know, want to be recognized or known in some situations around the state. But let me say, with regard to juried and competitive exhibitions, that you must make your decision from a strategic approach. Meaning, if the exhibition is in a major museum, or if the museum brings in a heavy hitter curator, major critic with publication affiliation, a gallery dealer from LA, New York, you know, Houston, Chicago, you get my drift. In other words, there should be a reason that you are entering into one of these exhibitions, because you want there to be the likelihood of some sort of tangible result because you've decided to do this. So then sometimes I'll get these, and it looks like an artist is sort of stuck. It's like, you know, the records, you know, it just, you need to sort of, well, nobody probably even knows about records anymore, but you know what I mean, when you just got to bump the, you know, the needle. You just kind of get stuck in a kind of a routine that's safe, that kind of thing.